Welcome to week 6. This week we're going to continue to explore communication targets and how those targets inform decision making, especially as it relates to strategic communication. And as you try to relate it to strategic communication, think about your own organization, your own community, your own family. That'll help apply the learning to something that means more to you. As you go through this week, some questions to ask yourself as you go through the reading and the lessons themselves. How does consumer involvement impact how consumers process messages? You can think about this in terms of your own consumers, if you're in that type of business, or think about it for yourself. How does consumer involvement impact how consumers process messages? Another question to ponder. How does your target audience make a purchase decision? And how does knowing this influence your communication strategy? Now, when I say purchase decision, that doesn't necessarily mean buying goods or services. It can mean that. But it could also mean whether or not they buy your brand, whether they buy into the message that you have sent out through strategic communication. So kind of broaden your concept of what a customer is and what a purchase decision is. Now, when you read Percy and Eliot, you'll find a quote that says that women are positively motivated to watch their weight. Positively motivated to watch their weight. An example of this would be that a woman sees another woman whom she sees as attractive and she says, "I want to look like her." Now, when you converse this with men are negatively motivated in terms of watching their weight. This means that a guy looks at another guy and maybe he's a little overweight, out of shape, things like that, and the man says, "I don't want to be like that." So he goes to the gym. So there's this positive motivation for women in terms of working out, watching their weight. There's a negative connotation in terms of men or motivation. Now that's according to Percy and Eliot. What I'm interested in is whether or not you agree. And then try to think of some examples that you believe there may be some gender differences or other differences based upon demographics. Now, we don't do this in a way so that we stereotype someone. We're all individuals. We all have individual motivations, individual preferences. The reason we do this in terms of academics is to try to better understand how different people are motivated. Now, when you read Petty and Schumann, you'll find that they believe that different kinds of appeals may be most effective for different kinds of audiences. Different kinds of appeals may be most effective for different audiences. I don't know about you, but when I read that, I'm kind of like, well, that's kind of common sense. Although we all know that sometimes common sense is not all that common. The important thing to note here is that you want to look at this in a strategic way. And think about whether or not you shape your own messages, strategize your own communication based upon the effect that it may have on different audiences. So while it may seem like common sense, we're really trying to get you to focus in a way that is more strategic rather than just accepting it as common sense and moving out with your same tactics. Well, listen, that's all for now. Remember, as always, stay ahead with the assignments, stay engaged in the discussion, and enjoy this time of learning.